Alright, ladies and gentlemen, Baron here. Now, a lot of you have been asking me in comments and private messages, what planes do you like? And more specifically, what premium aircraft do you recommend, or which premium aircraft should I buy? Now, that's a tough question to answer because I think it depends on the individual pilot. So I'm going to be showcasing a lot of premium aircraft. And right here, I'm starting with the I-153P. Now I'm going to be showing it both in arcade battle as well as historical battle and give reviews and performance tidbits and just things to be aware of. So if you want to skip the general information and jump right into the historical battle, go ahead and skip to about 3 minutes and 50 seconds. But we'll start with the general and we'll start with some arcade gameplay. There's certain characteristics of this plane that would normally be cons in historical battle that don't affect it in arcade play. Now right here you can see me using one of the greatest strengths of this aircraft, or two, I guess it's two greatest strengths. The first of which is its maneuverability, and the second of which is its firepower. The I-15s and the I-153s are some of the best biplanes in the game. Now from a historical context, at the beginning of the German invasion into Russia at the dawn of World War II, for those two respectively, the Russians did not have a whole lot of advanced aircraft, and that had a number of factors, one of which had to do with Stalin's purge. But right here in this show, like in that example, you can kind of see that the I-153P also is affected by low top speed, which is one of its cons. So generally you're not going to be able to catch some of the quicker aircraft, especially in historical battles, which we'll get to later. But here you can kind of see me derping around using its maneuverability to line up a Hurricane. And then we see the superior firepower. It has two 20mm Chaika cannons, which have 300 rounds of ammunition. Now, Russian aircraft, I would say, kind of overperform in arcade battles simply because of one thing. And that is they have low ammunition counts. So in historical battles, you have to pick your shots and you have to pick them wisely. Whereas in arcade, you do not have to worry about ammunition because you can reload without having to return to base. Now, while this thing has great maneuverability and great firepower, and it can climb relatively well, as most biplanes can climb well because, of their two wings, or two sets of wings, rather. But it does have, I guess, one of the greatest weaknesses of it is its structural weakness. It is a biplane. It has a relatively early war engine. It's a little weaker than a lot of the monoplanes that are a little beefier and more armored. So while you can maneuver, all over the place, if you have a number of people on your tail and you start getting hit, in your wings, you're going to start losing your maneuverability and you're probably going to derp right into a tree like me. Huzzah! But it is weak structurally, so you cannot take that much of a beating, whereas you can definitely give it out with your two 20mm cannons. Now this aircraft is tier 5, so you will be paired up with some faster aircraft with decent hitting power, so your true advantage is your maneuverability and your firepower. Now right here you're going to see something a lot of people were kind of surprised with at first, and that is how fast and how high, or just how good the I-153's climbing rate is. I can climb at almost close to 30-degree angle and continue to build up speed. So you can outclimb a lot of Allied aircraft. However, you're not going to perform at higher altitudes, at least in theory, as you would at medium and lower altitudes, where your maneuverability will really excel. So that was the climbing rate, and now kind of getting into the action. Now, as I said before, Russian aircraft are definitely affected by lower ammunition counts. Now with this aircraft, you have 300 20mm rounds, and with 2 guns you have 150 rounds per gun. Now, I tried to climb to meet this guy, but with my low top speed and low acceleration, and just the fact that I was below him, I basically wasted shots right there. And you can't really do that when you only have, you know, in historical, when you have to return to base in order to reload. And so here I'm gonna try to get on this P-39, and I can see him, but I can't really close the distance unless I pick my angles better. So here, decide to put some pot shots at this B-25 and then roll away, because I'm in a biplane. And his rear gunner could tear me up if I decide to stay within, you know, their field of view and try to continue shooting at. But I wouldn't have even been able to do that, as the B-25 would have been able to outrun me. So now, something interesting about this aircraft is, aside from the 2 20mm Schwachs, you can also equip it with 4 50-kilo bombs, or alternatively 8 RS-82 rockets. And the RS-82 rockets are pretty decent. Historically, they had like 0.8 pounds of explosive weight and a blast radius of 7 meters. Now, while you have 4 bombs or 8 rockets, you essentially get 4 chances to, you know, basically hit ground targets, because your rockets will fire 2 at a time, and I'm not sure if the bombs are individually dropped or dropped in pairs, but I would kind of go, I'm a little biased, that's kind of why I fly generally lower. I would consider myself primarily an attacker or a fighter bomber type personality, but you are, like, having those options of bombs or rockets does give it a decent ability to get involved with ground attack. So, trying to find some targets. Now, unless an aircraft is coming kind of near you, if it wants to run away, most aircraft could easily escape you. And that being said, on the flip side of that coin is here's the firepower in action real quick. If you get some good shots with your 20mm cannons in any plane, you're able to take planes relatively quickly, take them out easy. And that was a pretty good angle, and he was oblivious to me for some odd reason. But overall, my impressions of this aircraft, its strengths are in its maneuverability primarily, secondarily in its firepower. It has pretty good climb rate, and it can climb very fast, and by pretty good I mean it has one of the best climb rates, and that's partially as a result of just the I-15's performance historically, and Gaijin has said they are going to base their aircraft off their historical performance. So here is an example of how, if an aircraft wants to escape, it can. Now, you saw me taking shots a lot, and some errant shots at that, so I've wasted a decent amount of ammunition. And Russia in general will have a hard time with the ammunition count, and I just kind of want to reiterate that point, because I did not do that this game. And I line up a plane soon and have the opportunity to knock him out in a good 1 to 2 second burst. But you know what? Out of ammunition. So now the I-153P was basically a stopgap. The Russians were trying to develop more advanced monoplanes, better armaments, but they were having to use a lot of old planes. That's why you have the I-153P and the I-16 that has the 20mm cannons. They basically armed their earlier aircraft to be able to kind of hold off as long as they could. So you can generally think of the Russians as having some of the better armed early war planes because they did not adapt to later war designs as quickly as some of the other nations. And here is the other thing you have to worry about. You hear that click? Yeah, that sucks. So I blew my ammunition. But my overall opinion of this, if you like biplanes, and in historical battles, if you're just getting into it, biplanes are a good place to start. Easy to take off, easy to fly, easy to maneuver, so they're a little more forgiving. They have a not as steep of a learning curve. And here is the performance, but overall it's a great aircraft. It's relatively easy to use in historical battles, so if you want to get involved with historical battles, it's a good aircraft to use because you have the maneuverability of the biplane and the firepower of a higher tiered aircraft. So I'm Baron, thanks for watching, and next I'm going to show off the I-16 Russian Premium. You know, infinite ammo. Alright, some light tanks to drop some bombs on. What's around me? I don't see anything.
I don't see anything around you.
I still have 6
bombs. The only thing that's
bombs.
by you is at F40U and it's about 3.3 behind you.
Nice. Yeah, so overall impressions of this.
I like it. I'm gonna use it.